From fourth wall shattering monologues that kick off a complete narrative shift, to utterly ridiculous developments forcing the relentless excitement to unexpectedly come to a standstill. These are those action movie moments that stop said flicks dead in their tracks. I'm Gareth here from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 moments that literally stopped action movies. Number 10, a polite reload, hard target. The mighty Jean-Claude Van Damme can always be counted on to deliver the mesmerizing action goods whenever his sweaty torso swaggers onto the scene. And that was certainly the case during John Woo's thrilling 1993 action classic Hard Target, as Van Damme's former Force Recon Marine Chance Boudreaux went about taking out a group of doomed fools during the film's latter stages. After largely kicking, blasting, and exploding his way through Emile Fouchon's hunting party though, something rather magical happens. With Arnold Vosloo's also brilliantly named Pick Van Cleef closing in on our leading man within a warehouse, the two suddenly find themselves back to back, with only a thin wall separating either man from imminent death. There's only one problem: they both ran out of bullets, the silly gooses. Then, in a bizarrely polite turn of events, both men share some small talk and refuse to resume fire until the other one has fully loaded up their pistols. But once the bullets are finally unleashed once again, it's Van Damme who inevitably walks out of this one alive, thanks to a rather unique pistol shuffling maneuver. Number 9, the train pause, John Wick Chapter 2. John Wick Chapter 2 saw one of the finest pieces of seemingly never-ending violence to grace this always impactful series, with Keanu Reeves' leading hitman clashing with Common's Cassian, in the wake of the former masterfully using a pencil to get out of a sticky situation. After locking eyes across a fountain, a bloodied Wick and his nemesis proceed to comically fire off sneaky shots at one another as they wander through a crowded train station, producing an exchange as surreal as it is gripping. And just when it looked as though the pair were finally in a position to unleash all manner of hell on one another on the subway platforms below, the enemies are forced to hit pause on their deadly plans as they board a crowded train. The tension is real. Once the majority of the civilians obliviously finish off their daily commute though, the two pick right back up where they left off, cutting, thumping, and hurling one another to the point of Cassian being stabbed in the aorta, all while the odd passenger casually watches the sharp duel unfold. Number 8, The Rock Scene, Everything Everywhere All at Once. The Daniels Oscar-winning 2022 feature was most certainly everything everywhere all at once. And while at times it can often feel as though the mind-bending action simply refuses to cease, with fanny pack violence paving the way for dildo fights and so much more, things eventually grind to a completely unexpected stop out of the blue. After Michelle Yeoh's Evelyn Kwan Wang colorfully fires her way through the multiverse just before she is about to head into the everything bagel, she soon finds herself in a universe where herself and daughter Joy are little more than rocks, with one of them even boasting a pair of googly eyes. The subtitled silent exchange cuts through the relentless insanity that comes before it sensationally, forcing you to adjust frequency and lean into a rather beautifully honest conversation between mother and daughter, one that shines a light on just how damn small we really are in this gigantic universe. Absurd, awe-inspiring, and perfectly silly all at once. Who knew a Rock could put in a freakishly effective movie-stopping performance like this? Well, speaking of which, number 7, The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson take a never-ending tumble, The Other Guys. Another big old rock who brought their action-stuffed adventure to a sudden halt, Dwayne Johnson's The Other Guys appearance alongside Samuel L. Jackson helped produce one of the greatest comedy twists ever to splatter on a pavement. Throughout the opening stretch of the buddy cop comedy action flick, detectives P.K. Highsmith and Christopher Danson go about coolly taking down bad guys and causing a ton of destruction along the way. And as the effortlessly badass partners pursue another bunch of criminals on the streets of New York City, it initially seems as though yet another successful yet explosive day at the office was on the cards. But then as the bad guys zipline away from capture, the Rock and Sam connection opt to hurl themselves at the bushes below to maintain their gripping action-heavy chase. An utterly unexpected prolonged tumble ultimately sees both men miss said greenery to the sound of "There Goes My Hero," with this entirely shocking collision slamming down the brakes on both the cops' lives and the comedy flick itself. The audience is then left to erupt into baffled laughter as the screen cuts to black for a moment, with a funeral then playing out before their stunned eyes. Foolish Dwayne didn't he know that pavement beats rock every time? Or something. Number 6, the opening action is paused to kick off the story. Sonic the Hedgehog. 2020's Sonic the Hedgehog live-action big screen adaptation wasted little time showing you what the iconic speedster was all about. When the frame suddenly freezes on the titular blue furball sprinting away from his arch-nemesis Dr. Robotnik, and his explosive attempts to capture him though, this whirlwind action-packed opening sequence is soon shattered by the voice of the red-shoed legend himself. Or rather, the unmistakable Ben Schwartz. As the flames threaten to engulf our cheeky Sonic, the dashing protagonist quickly delivers a tried and tested, "You're probably wondering how I got here" monologue off screen. However, rather than chucking out a brief recap of sorts and diving right back into the thrilling San Francisco action, this flick opts to stick a pin in the chaos before then spending the majority of the runtime telling the tale of how Sonic ended up in this perilous scenario. And if one dramatic movie-stopping fourth wall smash wasn't enough for you, the famous speed demon once again hijacks the outing when the film finally catches back up to the aforementioned action set piece, wondering aloud how things will turn out as the tale reaches its thrilling climax. Number 5, the helicopter crash aftermath. Cloverfield. Matt Reeves' Cloverfield routinely left audiences with their hearts in their mouths back in 2008, as the likes of Rob, Beth, and the rest of the civilians occupying New York City at the time have their lives turned upside down by a gigantic creature. One of said tension-filled sequences involved the monster below being bombed to apparent pieces by the military, all while the gang are attempting to escape its warpath in a helicopter above. It's a superbly chaotic piece of action, but you cannot keep a good monster down for long. And with one sudden lunge, the monster takes out the helicopter as the petrified passengers crash down to the surface. The full impact of the helicopter smashing back down to Earth doesn't make its way into the end product, however. Instead, the footage cuts to a brief shot of Beth and Rob at a train station, and one of the many blink and you'll miss it monster movie nods in the form of a King Kong frame, before returning to an eerily silent crash site in the aftermath. Just like that, a pulsating moment of dread and potential death is abruptly cut off mid-fall, with the film pretty much stopping dead for 30 seconds while the dust settled on another disastrous occurrence. Number 4, what the Free Guy. Though Free Guy most definitely contained more surprising big-name cameo appearances than just about any other action offering in recent times, only one of those sudden celebrity showings forced the action to really pause mid-video game, coming during Ryan Reynolds' attempts as the titular guy to evade being obliterated by, well, a far more swollen Ryan Reynolds as Dude. The latter hulking figure's death blow is suddenly blocked by a rather familiar item the blue-shirted NPC summons at precisely the right moment. But with this epic throwdown being streamed around the globe, none other than Chris Evans himself soon clocks his precious Captain America shield being called upon without his permission, leading him to suddenly ask what in the sugar honey iced tea does this guy think he's playing at. Number 3, Enola changes her plan, Enola Holmes. Time and time again throughout Millie Bobby Brown's first outing as the strong-willed and effortlessly charming titular Holmes, Enola can be found letting the viewers in on the action she regularly finds herself at the center of. And while many of these fourth wall breaks are simply used as a way of giving you an honest glimpse into the mind of the youngster looking for her wandering mother, there was one rather specific instance of pulverizing the fourth wall that completely stopped the speeding train that was this Netflix action adventure and forced it to head in a new direction altogether. As Enola sits in her room in the wake of throwing down with the despicable Linthorn midway through the film, the youngest Holmes soon realizes that the young Tewksbury she met earlier in her quest likely needed her help more than her dearest mother at that precise moment in time. So after recalling a story of how she almost died trying to save a sheep from falling off a cliff, we've all been there, Enola soon directly informs us that with poor old Tewksbury not having the strength to fight off a Linthorn who'd been trying to kill him all film, it was up to her to ensure he didn't fall off the cliff, so to speak. And with that, Enola's plans to find her mother are stopped in their tracks, along with the movie's initial central mission, with the sister of Sherlock instead turning her attention to the Viscount for the remainder of the runtime. Number 2, did I leave the stove on? Deadpool. Setting the tone for the hijinks to come, Ryan Reynolds' iteration of the hilarious smack-talking superhero managed to deliver a Wolverine testicle-fondling quip directly to those innocent souls in attendance within the opening 5 minutes of 2016's Deadpool. Starting strong. This cheeky soliloquy would kick off the film's first real dose of simultaneously savage and side-splitting action too, with Wade Wilson taking it to a bunch of unfortunate bad guys speeding along a freeway. Right when it looked as though this hilariously creative vehicle assault was reaching its catastrophic climax though, the action slowly grinds to a halt. Wilson takes this particularly stressful moment to wonder aloud whether he'd actually remembered to turn the stove off. The chaos is only paused for a second or two there, but it's that brief suspended joke that ultimately makes the comically horrific follow-up of baddies being decapitated and splattered into road signs to come in real time that little more impactful to behold. Number 1. Spider-Man exchange notes. Spider-Man No Way Home. Knowing precisely what the audience sitting down to take in the third solo MCU Spider flick were hoping for heading into 2021's No Way Home, John Watts and the gang went out of their way to web their largely non-stop slice of Marvel action to a stop, just long enough to give the three titular web slingers some time to compare notes. As the three Peter Parkers prepare to execute their grand plan to topple the various villains from the multiverse, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland's friendly neighborhood heroes discuss the origins of certain antagonists, familiar back pain, how they all produce their signature web block, and fighting aliens both on Earth and in space. And along with being a rather touching display of brotherly bonding between the three lads who likely understand each other more than anyone else they'd ever met, this 2-minute calm before the storm to come also acts as a wonderful nostalgia-filled recap for the folks watching on. And that's our list. Know of any other moments that literally stopped action movies? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you like this sort of stopping stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been the never-stopping Gareth from whatculture.com. Cheers for stopping on by, and let it not be for the last time. Bye-bye!